Hello everyone, following the popularity of the Akasha videos and just the Vampire Chronicles in general, I wanted to make a video on how Akasha became the very first vampire, what were the factors that led to it happening, and what it truly means for her to carry this sacred core. Now if you're not sure what the sacred core is, I'll explain it a little in this video, but I will be making a follow-up video just on the sacred core alone. Now, not to insult the intelligence of Chronicles fans, but I'll be going into great detail for the purposes of making this video as entertaining and informative as possible. With that being said, let's take a look at how Akasha became the very first vampire. Okay everyone, I said a couple of moments ago I was going to go into great detail on how Akasha actually became a vampire. But I'm not going to go into her whole backstory because that's available to watch in the actual video on her life that I made, and you can watch that at the end of this video, or you can pause and click this card right here and start there before finishing this one, whatever is easiest for you. What I am going to do is give you a complete insight of the events that led to Akasha becoming the first vampire, and it's something Anne Rice does really well. She links the surrounding factors of the story together so brilliantly. So Akasha was from a place called Uruk, which is now known as Warqa in modern day Iraq, and she arrived in Kemet, which is now modern day Egypt. Kemet meaning black land, which was in relation to the dark fertile soil of the land. So Akasha became King Enkil's bride as he had no sister to take as a wife, which was custom at the time to keep the bloodlines pure. She married Enkil and they ruled as king and queen of Kemet. You'll most likely be aware that Akasha is portrayed as evil, cruel and unforgiving, as was her husband Enkil, but that wasn't always the case. The king and queen were good rulers at the beginning of their reign. They outlawed the practice of cannibalism and instructed their people to turn to farming, which was received incredibly well. However, all forms of cannibalism were banned, which included ritual cannibalism performed at funerals. The bodies instead were offered to the earth. This caused great outrage amongst the tribes across the land who had practiced this ritual for centuries. Though having good intentions at the beginning of their reign, Akasha and Enkil slowly became corrupt and showed no guilt for the bloodshed spilled by Enkil's great militia campaign, despite trying to steer their people away from violence at the beginning. Akasha became heavily interested in spirits and desired to know more. When she and Enkil had heard of the witch twins, Maharet and Makare, they invited them to court in order to witness their great power for themselves. The twins initially rejected Akasha's invitation, especially with the ban on ritual cannibalism, which their family had practiced for centuries. The twins were taken by force back to Kemet and questioned on their powers and beliefs, Akasha in particular wanting to know how they communicated with these invisible spirits. When the twins did call the spirits forth, Akasha put it down to weak tricks and condemned them both as blasphemers. To confirm her beliefs, she demanded that the spirit of Amel come forth, thinking it wouldn't, but come forth it did. Now, Amel is a very interesting spirit in that it has a lust for human blood. Being unable to take a completely solid form, Amel is able to leave cuts and nicks on human skin when moving incredibly fast, and then drinks the resulting drops of blood, which in turn gives the spirit a euphoric feeling and overwhelming rush of power. However, nicks, cuts, grazes, whatever you want to call them, were all Amel could actually do, so the spirit never truly got the full consumption of human blood. And this is exactly what Amel did do to Akasha when it was called forward, which as a result terrified the queen. Now in response to Amel's behaviour, Cayman was ordered to rape the twins in front of the entire court, and this greatly angered Amel, and the spirit began haunting and terrorising Akasha, Enkil and Cayman, despite the latter very reluctant to participate in what happened to the twins. Amel's haunting got so bad, it made all three of their lives a complete misery, driving them to the point of insanity. While dealing with the spirit's constant bedevilment, the king and queen didn't pay much attention to the ongoings of court. They had many enemies. They were attacked by assassins and left for dead. As Akasha's soul began to leave her body, Amel intertwined his essence with the soul and forced the combination of the two back into the queen's body, rapidly healing her. Now, a spirit has joined with a soul and now fully occupies human flesh, something never thought possible, therefore creating the very first vampire. With the essence of a male within her brain and heart, it became known as the sacred core. Having the sacred core within one being was so overwhelming, so overbearing, that it almost brought Akasha to the point of becoming mindless, a trance-like state, a state of nothingness. It was only through turning Enkil into a vampire did it bring some relief from the power of the core. After turning Cayman, Akasha realised that the more vampires that were made, the more stable she would be when holding the core within. And something that was heightened through Akasha herself was Amel's incredible lust for human blood. Akasha received a rush of euphoria combined with power, adrenaline and total inner satisfaction. There was nothing like it. Akasha and Enkil drank and drank for centuries. Everything and anything human that was in their sights they consumed. They could read the minds of anyone of whom they wished. They had super strength, super speed, but an insatiable thirst for human blood. Their sensitivity to sunlight led them to believe that the sun god Ra had forsaken them and wanted to punish them at every chance possible, meaning that the king and queen could now only go out at night. As the centuries passed, they tried to pass themselves off as gods, but as humans quickly discovered that feeding from the gods could give them immortality, and both Akasha and Enkil were entrapped in a diorite prison, leaving only their heads and necks exposed. This way, they could both take victims and be easily robbed of their own ancient and most powerful blood. They were rendered incapable of escaping, defending themselves or destroying themselves, thus taking the rest of the race with them into death. They spent centuries in this state, and in defiance of their captors, they refused to feed on their victims. They spent centuries in this state and in defiance of their captors, then refused to feed from victims. Even when they did escape, they became living statues with skin that appeared the texture of marble. As Akasha and Enkil are the very first vampires, anything that happens to them will therefore affect all current vampires in existence, which means their bodies must be kept safe, kept preserved, and therefore they became those who must be kept. And we will leave it there for today, everyone. That is how Akasha, the Queen of the Damned, became the very first vampire. If you want a detailed version of Akasha's entire life, then please feel free to watch that video. It will be on the end screen. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the support. I honestly can't believe the channel has hit 6,000 subscribers in just 10 weeks. It is mind-blowing. If you like this video, then please hit that like button. It tells YouTube that you enjoyed what you've just watched and will be recommended my videos more often. And if you want to join me on this journey with vampire folklore, then please hit that subscribe button. Thanks again, and I will see you all very soon.